right, in the last section, we talked about your foundation core expression. So now we're going to take that and do it through a movement. So we're going to go through a vinyasa. Now, since this is a vinyasa style yoga, knowing how to do your vinyasa is very important. So we're going to start, of course, with our foundation. So really grounding into the earth with our fingertips, coming onto the rings of our palms, bent knees here, bent elbows, and press yourself back into a down dog. Make sure your feet are firmly planted. You can pedal out one foot after the other. Start to stretch out your calf muscles. And I do want you to try this with me. I want you to see how this feels. So in a more traditional style yoga, you'll come from down dog. You'll have people really sitting back in their heels when they shouldn't be. They are falling into their shoulders, which I'm just going to hold this for a second so you can see. This is the position that you're doing when you do that. You wouldn't hold your neck and shoulders like this normally. Why would you do it when you're putting weight-bearing movement on it? That's not a great plan. So don't do that anymore. But that's typically what you'll see, because people they're just trying to get their heels to the ground even though they don't really have to, and they're sinking into their shoulders in a really horrible position for your neck and shoulders, destroying your shoulder joints. And then they do this. They've used no core activation really whatsoever. They've just moved themselves forward. I can just already feel the terrible alignment that's happening here. And then they come down like this. And then come up. And then they untuck their toes and come back. God, I can't even really do it in the way it's described anymore, but it's something like that. And you can see, if you're thinking from moving from your skeleton, how that doesn't work very well. So the new way you're going to do vinyasa, the new and awesome and good for you way, starting with our foundation, grounding into your hands and your feet, coming into your dog pose. Now start with a micro bend in your knees and your elbows. Wave your spine long. Waves are some of the best ways to create that extension in your spine and to really activate that deep core line and really open up any compression that might be happening. So you want to think about waving really in any position. If you want to make your fold deeper, wave into it. If you want to move from pose to pose, think about waving through it. So from here, wave, long spine. Now we've created space for our neck. Our shoulders are in a good alignment. We're not killing our shoulder joints, not crushing our ears. Then you can think about pressing your heels down and back. And your heels are just reaching towards the earth. Wherever they stop is where they stop. Let gravity do the work here. You stay in good alignment. You have your spine in a good space. Your heels will go where they're going to go. Now from here, bend your knees and elbows. So again, we're using that ground reaction force. We're using that momentum, and we're going to wave forward into a plank. And you can already feel the difference, how much length there is in your spine. That decompression's gone when you do it that way. And now the other thing we're going to do is a diagonal chaturanga. This is not like a cheat for chaturanga. It's a great way to keep your shoulders healthy and stay in good alignment. Because chaturanga is not some like spiritual pose, it's a push-up. It was added from gymnastics, honestly. So it's a push-up. And if you do a push-up wrong, you can really hurt yourself. And again, you see so many people doing stuff like this, where they dump their chest and they dump their shoulders into their ears, and now you're just crushing your ears, you're crushing your neck, you're destroying both your elbow and your shoulder joint. It's not good for either of those. So we will be doing diagonal chaturanga. Again, it's not a cheat, it's really healthy, and it's not like it makes it much easier. You can do chaturanga really slow and still challenge your triceps. You can do more of them and still challenge your triceps. But the idea is you want to come onto your knees. So we're in that nice, elongated, open space, plank. We come onto our knees, lean forward, lower through our chaturanga, and then we touch our hips down first. So we're never dropping our head below our shoulders, dropping our shoulders below our elbows, any of that. We're staying lifted. We come onto our hips, and then you can lower down. And then from here, we want to use that same waving motion to bring ourselves back up. So inhale, prepare your spine. Exhale, rolling in and up. So lifting in and up through your front and low belly. And unfurling, extending the crown of your head to the sky. You can come into a cobra, you can come into up dog. And from here, don't do this. That's bad for your low back. If you can, if it feels good, you can stay in pointed plank and really lift up through your low belly, back to down dog, and then flip one foot over the other. If that is too much for your feet, or whatever the case may be, it's too much strain on your shoulders, maybe you're building up strength to that. If you're here, come back onto your knees, then untuck your toes and come into down dog. Doing the other way where you're here and you crank up your low back, not really good for your low back. And again, we want to create a lifelong practice, so we don't want to do our poses in a way that makes our body hurt. So keeping that good alignment, keeping that open space, making room for our joints to move and not crushing any parts of our spine is what we want to do. So think about that waving motion anytime that you're doing any kind of pose, especially if you're transitioning from one pose to the other. But again, starting with that foundation, lifting up through your core, using that foundation and core to then move you through your flow, all the way through your practice. Okay, foundation core expression. That is the key basically to any pose. You've been hearing me say it a lot. We're starting with the ground. We're starting at the ground. We're starting with our foundation because we're starting with our foundation at the ground. So I want you to try this with me. We're going to try a mountain pose, but we're going to start building it from the ground up. Now the reason why we say foundation core expression is we're starting with planting our feet firmly into the ground, getting that good balance, getting that good energetic lift through our feet, lifting up all the way through our legs, activating our core all the way from our feet all the way up. We're activating our core, and then once we get to mountain pose, we'll be expressing it and kind of finalizing it at the end. So we're going to start here. So really planting your feet onto the earth. Start in a neutralized, like in a neutral position. So really fold over, bent knees and limbs here. Again, this is how we're going to get our ground reaction force and our momentum, is by starting with bent limbs. We can't get that same reaction and movement if we just are straight limbed all the time. So starting here, grounding into the earth with bent knees. Wave your spine long over your legs, really reaching out through your sits bones, and then starting to use your core all the way from your feet, all the way from the ground up, lifting up through your inner thighs. Spine is starting to unfurl, lifting in and up through your front and low back spine, then lifting up through the chest and the crown of the head. Arms unfurl last, you reach tall, and exhale, hands come to your heart center in your namaste or Anjali Mudra. Feels nice, right? We have a strong pose here. We're firmly planted into the earth. Our alignment's really good because everything is stacked the way it should be. We have length in the spine. We have great space here for our neck. We didn't crush our ears. We didn't hurt our low back because we built it from the ground up. Let's try it the normal way. Normal way is you fold over with straight legs, swan dive up, arms come up, arms come back down. If you've been practicing that way, that's how it's taught, but hopefully when you do it, you can feel the difference in your body. You're stretching too fast too soon, you're lifting up from your back lumbar muscles and really tensing them up when they shouldn't be. Your arms are not creating space for your neck and your shoulders. It's not a great way to structure your pose, and if you think about it, you wouldn't walk around like this, so why are we going to do that in our pose? So if we try it again, folding over our legs, starting from that neutral position, really grounding into the earth, getting a firm foundation, lifting up through our sits bones as we lift up through our core, lifting in and up through the front and low back spine, unrolling towards the sky, lifting long spine up out of the crown of the head, bending your elbows to unfurl your arms to the sky, and back to mountain pose. Hopefully you can feel the difference. I feel the difference, but you want to think about doing that foundation core expression in every pose. So think about your foundation is whatever is on the ground, and you want to bend and get close to that first. Use that ground reaction force to start lifting up from your foundation through your core. And then again, that expression is the final adjustments, the letting the arms extend, letting the legs extend, coming into kind of the more, final version of the pose, if you will. That's the expression piece. That's the part you do last. 90% of your pose is built in that transition. You don't go straight to the pose. It's not the best way to do it. That's how you get injured. That's how you get hurt. That's how you stop practicing yoga, is because these poses are not doing you any good if you're just, well, I have to go right into the pose like this. We're not robots. We are very fluid. We're filled with water. So we want to use that foundation core expression to build up all of our poses. And whatever pose it is. So again, whatever parts of you are on the ground, that's your foundation, building up through the core. And you want to think about moving from your skeleton. That's the best way I can think about describing it, because the muscles we want to activate is our inner body. So the muscles that are right along the skeleton, right along our spine, that are giving us that true support. Our outer body muscles, they'll get activated anyway. We don't need to think about using our hamstrings and quadriceps to move through poses. So think about moving from your bones. Think about that being your core, your skeleton and your spine. If you think about the movement coming from there, not only will you start stacking your bones in good alignment, you'll start activating those muscles, and the rest of the body will just kind of follow along if you're moving from your skeleton as your core. So have fun with that. Make sure to think foundation core expression in all of your poses, and